better. Now, what I want to tell you in this video is that nutritional needs will vary from day to day, week to week. They'll vary from person to person. It's never a one size fits all when it comes to nutrition and eating and your diet and so on and so forth. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 things that impact the amount of food that we eat, that we need, right? Or the amount of energy, the amount of nutrition that we require from day to day, week to week, and also things that vary between person to person. Okay, so the first one is going to be like size or gender, right? Because depending on the gender, we are different sizes. Men tend to be bigger than women, by extension also muscle mass, right? So essentially, the more muscles we have, the more energy we need, because muscles require more energy for metabolism. Okay, so basically the issue of gender and size comes down to how much muscle, right? What's your muscle mass, and also just the bone mass and just the general size of the body. A bigger body, generally speaking, would need more energy, and so a bigger person or more muscular person is going to need more food. So you can't expect a 2,000 calorie per day requirement to be what a larger person, a more muscular person needs, just like a smaller person needs, right? It's going to vary depending on the amount of energy you need just to carry your body around. Okay, the second thing is going to be, believe it or not, the amount of sleep that you get. So we know generally that if you suffer from sleep deprivation, like basically sleep deprivation is a risk factor for being overweight for many different reasons. One is simply that not getting enough sleep, you're more tired, and when we feel tired, sometimes we tend to go and get something to eat, especially something like a sugary snack or a sweetened drink, because those things give us an automatic burst of energy. And so sleeping would lead to weight gain because we're more frequently snacking on these sweetened things or having drinks or whatever, right? Another thing about sleep too is that just being sleep deprived is a stressful state. And when the body's under stress, right, it means that we tend to produce more of the stress hormone called cortisol. And cortisol is definitely or specifically associated with weight gain, okay? And anybody who has taken steroids can attest to that. The fact that when they took steroids, some people say, I blew up when I took steroids, right? So if you are producing more of the endogenous, we say steroids, if your body's producing more steroids because it's under more stress, it means that you're going to gain more weight. Another thing about sleep deprivation is that, generally speaking, not getting enough sleep sort of scrambles the satiety like hormones, those hormones that regulate appetite. Okay, and overall what you have is that you have more of the or higher stimulation, or basically you do not have suppression of the hunger hormone. You just kind of feel hungry more and are more prone to eating when you're sleep deprived, right? And then another thing as well is that if your sleep deprivation is related to having obstructive sleep apnea, which is a condition where, because of excess fat around the neck, the airway gets squeezed, and so when you fall asleep, you have periods where your breathing pauses because your airway gets locked off, and that happens multiple times per night, every minute, whatever. And that situation of sleep apnea, like some people literally end up losing weight after their sleep apnea is treated, because we know sleep apnea contributes to weight gain. So there are multiple factors where sleep deprivation would also contribute to altered metabolism, changing food requirements, nutritional requirements, why you might want to eat more, as I described earlier, right? A third thing that impacts the the amount of food we need, our nutritional requirements, will be genetics, right? Now, not to as much as an extent as you might think. Like some people would think, everybody in my family is large, it's in my genes. And I like to say that what you have is not necessarily an inherited maybe body habitus, but an inherited way of eating, because people in the generations before you, or basically the people who surrounded you, ate a certain way, and so that's all you know, and so you ate in that same way as well. That tends to promote weight gain, right? But apart from inherited ways of eating, and just general lifestyle, there is a genetic element to your metabolism. And some people have a faster metabolic rate, some people have a somewhat slow metabolic rate, and so genetically speaking, some people might require more food energy to maintain their higher metabolic rate, separate from any hormonal issues or other factors that I have mentioned, are the 4 factors. Okay, so genetics is one. The fourth one, this is an obvious one, basically activity levels. So the more active you are, and this is kind of an extension from the whole muscle mass issue, but even separate from your muscle mass, like you need a certain amount of energy to keep up that muscle mass, but separate from that, whatever your size, whatever your muscle mass, you are going to have variation in your activity levels from day to day, week to week, month to month, etc. Right? Sometimes you might be way more active, you might be on vacation in an area where you have to walk everywhere, right? In a walking city, something like New York or something, some of those European cities, you're walking. So you're utilizing more energy. And when you're utilizing more energy to maintain that balance, that homeostasis, you're going to want to eat more food, right? Now, the energy utilization might not necessarily be physical. It might be mental energy. I personally notice that when I am having more hectic times at work, more complex cases, just being on call and having more patients and more complicated patients, like I tend to eat more, right? And I think it's just that brain energy, utilizing that energy to help my brain, to keep ticking and thinking and figuring out complicated problems, right? And then sometimes on weekends, I feel like I'm less hungry. So on weekends, I can go all morning without eating, really. So it just depends on how active your activity level will vary day to day, week to week, month to month, and you should not be afraid of paying attention to your body and your energy requirements. And if you feel hungry one day, like some people are afraid, like, oh my goodness, like I don't want to eat because I don't want to gain weight. We need to get more in tune with our bodies, listen to our bodies. And if we're feeling like we need more energy and you realize, oh, I've been more active, I've been burning more energy, then you have to eat, right? And you can't expect, it's obvious that we are different. Every day we do different things, right? So definitely activity level is going to vary, and that will determine our nutritional needs day to day. And then the final factor that can impact your nutritional requirements, and this one is really exciting, I've been trying to learn more and more about this, is basically the makeup of your microbiome. And unless you've been on the rock, you might have heard all the talk about the microbiome, which basically refers to the makeup, the mix of bacteria, or not just bacteria, actually the mix of microorganisms that live within, inside and also outside of our body. Our bodies are not sterile. We have microorganisms on the surface of our skin, in our mouths, and also most of that mix of microorganisms is in the large intestines, and we call that the microbiome or the flora, which makes it sound like a flora garden or something, right? But anyway, it's a mix of bacteria, fungi, viruses, etc., that are all there in balance. Now, this microbiome, the composition or the mix of this, microorganism, this microorganism mix varies depending on what we eat, right? So if we're eating more, fiber, it's going to be different. If we're eating more refined starch, it's going to be different. So from person to person, the microbiome has a different makeup, and depending on the makeup of your microbiome, you will metabolize different foods differently. So some people will be able to metabolize starch in a more efficient way, so that they do not have high spikes of blood sugar levels, right? So 2 people can eat the identical amount of starch or sugar, let's say, right? And one person will maintain a totally normal blood sugar level after 1 hour after eating that amount of starch. And another person will have a significant spike in the blood glucose level after eating that starch, right? And just because of the makeup of their microbiome. And the microbiome, of course, is something that, from after birth, moving through the birth passage, we acquire some of this flora, the microorganisms from our mothers, and just throughout life, different exposures, different things we eat and so on, affects the makeup. Exposure to antibiotics also will negatively impact the makeup or mix of this microbiome. But it's really fascinating, you know, to me, and I guess it's just fascinating in general, that depending on the makeup of the microbiome, that can determine what you want to eat, what you feel like eating. Sometimes it causes cravings of certain sugary things depending on the makeup, right? And so sort of trying to repair your microbiome is one thing that can assist with your ability to sort of not have cravings for different foods, especially sweet and sugary foods, right? So those are just 5 factors that I wanted to outline today that can impact our nutritional requirements. Okay, just to summarize them quickly: 1 is essentially our size, which, you know, we determine the amount of muscle mass. 2 is the amount of sleep that we get and also the quality of our sleep. 3 is our genetics. 4 is our activity level. Are we burning a lot of energy, right? And how that varies. And then the last one is our microbiome, specifically the makeup of our microbiome. So I hope you all found this video super helpful. Basically, the message is that one diet is not going to be good for everybody. Okay, everybody is different, and a diet may be suitable for you at a specific point in your life, right, and be totally inappropriate for you at a different point in your life. When people are younger, they tend to be burning more energy, more energetic, more active, and require more. When you're more sedentary, you require less. All those things can change, you know, depending on the season, depending on the time of day, depending on the time of the week. And so we shouldn't feel like we have to have a specific, set of dietary recommendations, specific set of calories, and so on and so forth, right? Every day for the rest of our lives. It varies, and we need to get used to listening to our bodies and giving our bodies what it needs day to day. I hope you all found this helpful. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe for more. Okay, bye-bye.